Kray is the leader of the world's strongest clan, the Grieving Soul, and he is widely respected for his wisdom and power, but in reality he is a total weakling, and just wants to find a way to quit his job. We see Kray standing in line at a treasure hunter clan meeting, and he looks like he really doesn't want to be here, but he's got no choice. Treasure hunters in this world are basically celebrities because they explore treasure vaults all over the world and risk their against phantoms, all with no health insurance. It's a dangerous job, but the promise of fame and riches compels dozens of people to become treasure hunters every year, and to that end, they often join a clan like First Steps, which is why they renown in the capital as one of the best ever exist. It consists of a collection of parties that come together to assist one another, and the reason there are so many people here to join is because unless your name is Jinwoo, there's a limit to how far you can get as a solo hunter. Kray was trying to get this over with without drawing much attention to himself, but out of nowhere, the girl behind him starts talking and asks if he is here to join a party as well. Kray tries to use the age-old tactic of ignoring her until she goes away, but before he knows it, she has already walked in front of him and is introducing herself. Her name is Ruta and she's a level 3 hunter, so she extends a hand to Kray, but he refuses to shake hands with her, although he does give her his name. Ruta is disappointed that Kray didn't shake her hand, but she gets over it and starts talking about herself some more. She has been solo hunting until now, but she came across a vault called the White Wolf Den, and she couldn't handle it on her own, so she wanted to come to join a party. Just then, the man in front of them turns around and tells Ruta she should be trying to take on vaults as dangerous as the White Wolf Den, while she's still only level 3. He smirks and calls her an inexperienced amateur because even if she's level 3, she's still basically a beginner compared to the other professional hunters out there. As the argument gets more heated, Ruta becomes really angry, and Kray really wishes he had stayed home so he wouldn't have gotten involved with them. Ruta pulls out her knives and is about to attack the man, but before she does anything, a guard comes over and reminds Ruta that these aren't the streets of London, so if she keeps this up, she's going to be banned from the clan meeting. She realizes she lost her temper for a moment, so she puts her knives away and apologizes for the outburst. All while Kray tries to act like he's not here. A little while later, Kray makes it into the clan meeting and Ruta is still with him because he's the only person she knows here. She is amazed by all the powerful hunters here and honestly feels a little overwhelmed since she has never been to a place like this before. She asks Kray if he has been here before, so he tells her that this is his 5th time here, and Ruta thinks she must suck at being a hunter if he has to keep coming back to the recruitment meeting. Among hunters, talent is everything, so even a random nobody can make a name for themselves and climb for the ranks. Ruta notices a party in flashy attire on the other side of the room, so she asks Kray about it, and he informs her that the party is called Arc Brave, and of all the parties recruiting today, they are undeniably the strongest. As a group, they once managed to complete a level 7 vault with just 6 members, so they are widely respected. And if you get scouted by their leader, Arc Rodin, you're pretty much guaranteed to have a good hunter career, although he's pretty picky with his selection criteria. Ruta is intrigued to learn more, so she asks about the empty desk over in the corner of the room, but before Kray can say anything, the guy from before comes over and tells her he will explain everything. Ruta doesn't really want his help after the argument they had outside, but Greg goes on to explain anyway, and tells her that the desk belongs to the party that founded this clan, the Grievers. The party was a group of talented youngsters who arrived in the capital a few years ago and made a name for themselves as the Grieving Souls. But what the others don't know is that the legendary party consists of Kray's childhood friends. Apparently, there were rumors floating around that the Grieving Soul party would be recruiting today. But since their spot is empty, Greg assumes the rumors were false. Just then, a kid who came here hoping to apply to the Grieving Souls party noticed that they aren't here yet. So he becomes irate because he believes he's going to become the strongest hunter in the world someday, so the only party worth joining is the Grieving Souls. Greg finds the kid amusing, but Ruta doesn't have the guts to say anything since the kid actually has a higher level than her. Just then, a girl named Tino steps up and is prepared to shut the red-haired kid up with violence because she's the only one who deserves to join the Grieving Souls party. Her partner tries calming her down since this isn't worth causing a scene, even if the red-haired guy was being really annoying. For a second, it looked like they had calmed down enough to avoid a fight, but then Greg joins in with his first-class instigation. And all of a sudden, the entire room is supporting the fight. All gloves are off now, so Tino and the kids square up to face each other. Kray can tell things are going to get hectic real soon, and he doesn't want to be around when that happens, so he asks Ruta to come outside with him. As the fight is about to start, Tino already intends to kill the kid over what was essentially bragging, and she'll just call Saul later to handle the murder charges. Or at least that was the plan until she senses a familiar presence nearby, and the second she spots Kray, She forgets all about the fight and charges straight for him. Cry is caught off guard by the sudden attack, so he stumbles backwards and Tino nervously turns, calling him master and asking if he saw her lose her temper over there. Ark then comes over as well and greets Cray, since he has been waiting for his arrival. Ben wouldn't have been able to start the clan meeting until Cry arrived anyway, since he is both the clan master and the leader of Greeting Souls. Everyone who didn't already recognize him is shocked to hear this because that means Cry must be the most important person here. However, all the attention he's getting is making him feel sick, so he really just wants to go home. Several years ago, when Cry and his childhood friends first arrived in the capital, they were clearing all the beginner vaults in record time, but there was just one problem. Cry had no idea what he was doing. He got saved from a monster, and his teammates thought he was intentionally lowering his guard so he could act as bait, and he goes with it, but he was totally about to get chomped. They all shared the same dream to become exceptional hunters, but unlike the other 5, Cray was exceptionally ordinary. He knew that sooner or later he would become nothing but a burden to the party, and he didn't want his friends to resent him for his weakness, so he made the decision to lead the party on his own. However, when tried to quit, it somehow ended up with him being appointed as the leader of the party. That's how he got to his current position as the leader of his truly gifted childhood friends, but he really wishes he could just retire from being a hunter. Ruda and Greg still can't believe they were talking to the clan master the entire time, and while Cry is in his chair, Ark comes over and asks if Cry showed up late because he wanted to observe the crowd as one of the common folk. Cry denies this and says he just overslept, but Ark isn't listening and firmly believes that Cry showed up late on purpose. For some reason, no matter how much Cry tries to explain himself, people always misunderstand him in a way that makes him look better than he actually is. Hinav doesn't like how close Ark is with Cry, so she wants to have him kicked out of the clan, but Cry isn't going to do that. Tino is a level 4 hunter who also happens to be an apprentice to one of Kay's childhood friends, Liz, so she hangs around him a lot. Ark asked Cray if he has any good candidates in mind for recruitment, but there honestly isn't a need to add any new members to the clan right now. Although since Ark almost never actually recruits new members, Cray takes the opportunity and asks if Ark will seriously consider any recommendations he makes. Ark says he will accept anyone Cray chooses, and this is a huge surprise to everyone, so the vice captain tries to talk him out of such a rash decision. However, Ark cuts her off and says anyone Cray chooses will be worthy of joining his party. Tino begins blushing because she thinks Ark is thinking about recommending her, but she also doesn't like Ark, so she's a bit conflicted about whether to accept or not. All of a sudden, the kid from earlier, whose name is Gilbert by the way, comes out to the front of the crowd, and he's totally ready to beg if that's what it takes to be accepted by Cry. Cry tries thinking about whether Gilbert would be a good choice or not, but he quickly gives up because he is a terrible judge of character. He has no idea how to tell if someone will become strong in the future, so he decides to leave it up to pure luck. He tells Gilbert that he's willing to recommend him, but he has one condition before that. As a hunter, the most important thing is to make sure you always win. If he lacks strength, he will end up putting his party members in danger, so Cry wants him to demonstrate that he has the ability to always win. Also, since Cry began his career as a hunter, he has never lost before, although that's because he has never actually been in a real fight. Anyway, Cry takes off one of his ring artifacts and announces to every hunter here that the first person to present this ring to Ark will be accepted into his party, and with that he tosses the ring into the wild to watch the chaos unfold. The first one to get the ring is Gilbert, but that doesn't last long because non-human a second later, Tino jumps down at him and knees his face so hard that he gets sent all the way across the room. Gilbert probably needs a doctor now, but no one's focused on him right now because the ring is currently rolling across the floor, and while everyone is initially hesitant to act, it doesn't take long before they all start fighting over it. At this point, Cray decides to take his leave, and even though the bar is getting destroyed as he leaves, he says it's not his problem and goes home. However, the next morning it became his problem as the bar fight made front page news. Apparently the entire place was leveled because of the fight, but luckily there were no civilian casualties at the end of the day. However, as a result of the events, Eva tells him that the Explorers Association wants to have a private meeting with him. And Cry already knows that means they are going to yell at him. He asks how Ark took the news, and Eva tells him that Ark actually took it pretty well and laughed it off. Since Ark probably isn't mad, Cry wants to take advantage of his good mood and send him the bill to rebuild the bar, as well as ask him to go handle a meeting with the association. But Eva informs him that the meeting is specifically meant for him, so there's no way he's getting out of it this time. Even if he tries ignoring it, the association manager, Gark, is just going to hunt him down like he always does, so Cry caves in and agrees to go, but he will be using his secret weapon to get over as soon as possible. And that secret weapon is to grovel and apologize. He also argues that the only damage was to the bar, and since no one was hurt, and the bar owner has been compensated to cover the repairs of the bar. There shouldn't be any further issues. Gark hasn't even gotten a chance to yell at Cry yet, but after seeing Cry apologize, he just lets it go for now. However, even if there aren't any official complaints against him, he still needs to take responsibility for his actions, which is why Gark is assigning him a quest, and he has no right to refuse. The association gets all kinds of quests for hunters, but with such a large volume, there are bound to be quests that are so difficult or pay so little that no one wants to do them. These quests are what the hunters call chores, and Cray really doesn't want to have to deal with one of those, so he tries putting on an act and saying he is too important to be stuck with a chore. However, Gark isn't letting him get out of this, so he's forced to pick one. Cry opens the quest book and starts looking for it for the easiest quest, and of everything available, the lowest level is 3, so he picks that one. He was planning on just dumping the work on Ark, but when he goes to look for him, he's informed by Tino that Ark is currently away on a meeting with some nobles, is going to be gone for a while, and no one else is here, so he doesn't have many options to ditch his work. Just then he notices that Tino is wearing his ring, meaning she was the one who won his little game yesterday, but that aside, he asks her if she is free at the moment. Tino is excited because she thinks he wants to ask her out on a date, but to her dismay he tells her he has a quest for her. She immediately runs away, but even though she's fast, Cry has his ways of catching up to her. He summons his chained dog, Silver, and instructs it to capture Tino, and before long, Cry has her tied up in a chair so he can discuss the quest with her. She feels betrayed because she just wanted to go on a date with Cray, but now he's forcing her to go on this crappy quest all by herself. Cry asks if the problem is that she doesn't want to do it alone, and Tino responds that she wouldn't be opposed to the idea if Cry would join her. However, that would mean Cry would have to do actual work, so he instead opts to send Tino on the mission with a bunch of the hunters he met yesterday. This was the end of episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next part.